Ladies and gents, we have a trade. Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I am your host, Pee Wee the Plug, the number one Knicks fan in the world. And boy, we have a trade. Earlier today, I dropped a video. I was reacting to a Bleacher Report article, NBA trade ideas that could shake up the playoff race. And in the intro of that video, I was talking about my hopes for having a busy trade deadline and how I always feel like whether it's a trade deadline, off season, there's always a bunch of chatter. All of us fans are getting our hopes up for a lot of player movement, a lot of craziness going on. So I was hoping that we would have a lot of activity this particular year. And then this happened right after. So I'm hoping this is the domino effect for a lot of activity to be following over the next few days leading up to the February 10th trade deadline, which is next Thursday. But here we are. The Portland Trailblazers are sending Norman Powell and Robert Covington to the Los Angeles Clippers in return for Eric Bledsoe, Keon Johnson, Justice Winslow, and a second-round pick. I'll be honest, this came out of nowhere for me. This is a left field trade. I had no idea the Clippers were even interested in this. I had been having conversations about what the Clippers would do. You know, I was interested and very curious on the approach the Clippers would take leading up to the deadline, seeing that Paul George is out for the foreseeable future, probably the rest of the year. And if he's out, you have to think they're going to be super extra cautious with Kawhi Leonard's return and probably schedule him to be out for the remainder of the year as well. So that made me think and question, would the Clippers be sellers at the trade deadline? They have a bunch of good role players that may be impactful to other teams, and this would be a way for them to shed some money, get under that luxury tax, and maybe make some moves to be flexible so when Paul George and Kawhi are at full strength, they could put a championship team around them this coming offseason. But they answered my question. They got Norman Powell, who just signed a crazy contract with the Blazers months ago in the offseason. Then they also get the expiring deal of Robert Covington, a two-way 3-and-D guy who can play a bunch of positions and guard a bunch of different positions. This was a get for them. I really like this trade for them. The Clippers have been an impressive team all year with Kawhi, with both Paul George and Kawhi, without Kawhi, even without both of them. Tyronn Lue has his team fighting every single game. We've seen them beat teams that they shouldn't be beating. We've seen them have crazy comebacks, a 35-point comeback. And even in the playoffs when they lost Kawhi and everybody thought that they were out of it because it was them versus the Jazz, you know, they even won that series. You know, against the Mavericks in the first round, they went down 2-0, lost both games on their home floor. It looked real ugly. Then they came back, won both games in Dallas, lost game 3. Everybody really thought it was over. Then they closed it out to win the last 2 with their back against the wall. And this team just has a bunch of fight. So I like the acquisitions. I feel like Norman Powell, very interesting that they would invest the amount of money that they're going to invest in him in a position that they rather don't lack in. Luke Kennard has been a good floor spacer for them, shoots the ball really well. Not the scorer I think they were hoping he would be. So I do like the addition of Powell to give them an extra punch in the scoring department. Reggie Jackson has done a very good job of that. Marcus Morris has always done a good job of that and never been shy about taking a jump shot here and there. So I like the scoring punch. I am still very curious about what they're going to do with the point guard position. I feel like since they've had Kawhi and Paul George, that point guard position has been a question mark for them. So I'm really curious how they address that for when those guys return. But for now, just looking at the positives and the upside, they bring in a guy like Norman Powell who can score the ball. I think he could be able to play off of a Paul George and Kawhi as well. He's not ball dominant, can play off of the ball. And this is a situation where they'll play him at his natural position, which is a shooting guard, because of the size around him. I feel like in the last couple stops, Toronto, Portland, they've kind of had him play out of position because he played with smaller players. In Toronto, it was Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet in the backcourt at times. He had to play 3. Portland, you have Dame, CJ, Anthony Simons, CJ, Anthony Simons, and Dame, and he played a lot of minutes at the 3, which I don't think is his natural position. You know what I mean? So for him to be able to play his natural position, a lesser role, not too many expectations, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment for when they do come back, because I feel like Norman Powell has, gotten used to getting a lot of shots and being super involved. And I think he's going to have to turn it down just a little bit on some nights because Kawhi and Paul George can definitely get their shots up. But regardless of that, they upgrade with an extra scoring punch. And I'm very curious to know if he's going to start. Do you bring Norman Powell off the bench with that type of salary? Is my question. Or does he start and you play Paul George or Kawhi at 4 and you play a little small? It's going to be interesting to see what direction they go with that. He'll probably start knowing the salary and the amount of money that he's going to be making. Robert Covington, though, is interesting because I like what he can bring to that team, adding another body to defend with Kawhi and Paul George on the perimeter. And even the fact that they love to play small ball, maybe utilizing him in that role. But Robert Covington is on an expiring deal. So it's going to be interesting to see if they bring him back. If they don't, the forward position for them could get a little crowded, could get a little redundant. So, Marcus Morris, Kawhi, Paul George. Then you're talking about Robert Covington. Don't know how they're going to do with Ibaka. So we'll see the direction they go with that. But overall, as far as this trade, thumbs up, extremely thumbs up for the Clippers. I don't think in a million years anybody saw this happen. And I don't think the Clippers knew that they would be able to get 2 players like that for the price that they got them at. And for them to still be in a playoff race, this helps them out for the current year and also for when Paul George and Kawhi do return. So I like it for them. Switching gears to the Portland Trailblazers, it's tough. It's tough, and I hate to be a guy who seems to be beating up on the Blazers any chance I get. But I've had a bone to pick with the Blazers since they traded Gary Trent for Norman Powell. I from day one, never understood that trade in a million years. I really love what Gary Trent brought to Portland. He was a homegrown talent. They drafted him. He fit in with the culture. He played well with CJ and Dame. I love what he brought defensively. He knew his role. He was younger, cheaper. They flip him into Norman Powell, who was playing good. And I just didn't like the fit from the beginning. Just because I knew Gary Trent was exactly what they needed there. And then you bring in Norman Powell, who's older. You re-sign him for way more money than you were probably going to give Gary Trent Jr. The fit don't seem to work as well as the Gary Trent Jr. fit did. And you have this emergence of Anthony Simons now. And if you didn't make that trade, you would probably be more comfortable trading CJ and Dame because you would have Gary Trent and Anthony Simons as a young, up-and-coming backcourt potentially. So I don't like that trade from the beginning. And now that you re-signed him, Norman Powell, just to trade him to the Clippers for Eric Bledsoe, Keon Johnson, Justice Winslow in a second-round pick essentially means you traded Gary Trent for a second-round pick, Justice Winslow, and Keon Johnson, who is a young player, don't get me wrong, and has potential. But you were better off keeping Gary Trent Jr., if we're just being honest. And I really don't know what direction Portland is going. A lot of people were asking me, hitting me up on Twitter about it. And the best thing I could say is I give them credit. They're saving a lot of money. Eric Bledsoe is going to come off the books. Keon Johnson is a young player. Justice Winslow contract, I believe, is short term. He may be off the books sooner than later. But it's just like, what are you guys doing? Are you going to commit to the rebuild? Is CJ next? You know what I mean? Is Dame going to be next? Or have y'all figured out the direction? Or did you just make a trade to free up some money and you just plan on retooling and going at it again with CJ and Dame in a year? Because I feel like Portland is in a nice situation if they committed right now at the trade deadline to a rebuild. If you let go CJ, you don't have to trade Dame right now. He's hurt. You can do that all off season. But you sit Dame out for the rest of the year. You trade CJ. You already traded Norman and RoCo. Nurkic is off the books. You let Simon spread his wings and shine for the rest of the year. Nasir Little, unfortunately, is hurt. It would have been good to allow him to run with Anthony Simons as well, but he's hurt. Larry Nance would be a coveted name at the trade deadline. But yeah, you let Anthony Simons grow and develop. You lose games. You get yourself a nice lottery pick, hopefully top 5, and get one of those forwards, Jabari, Banchero, Chet. You pair them with Simons. Whatever the return is for CJ, you try to hopefully get some youth and some picks. You free up more money with that. Maybe bring back a bad contract that you get off the books. And then you find a home for Damian Lillard in the offseason and you bring back a young player or two with a pick or two to pair with Anthony Simons. You have a restart or rebuild kicked off. But I'm afraid because it's Portland, this is not that. This is going to be a retool where they're essentially probably going to keep Dame and CJ. It's going to affect Anthony Simons and his development because when they come back, he's obviously not going to have the same effect that he's having alone when we're seeing these 27-point games, 30-point games, 8 assists here, 4 3-pointers made here, 5 3-pointers made there. He's not going to have the freedom and the luxury and the opportunity to do those things when Dame and CJ are there. The moment CJ came back, his production dipped a little bit just because another guy is taking the ball out of his hand. So for me, it's like you either commit to Dame and CJ again and let the rest of us just like be done with you, or you trade them and let Ant fly, but you can't have both. And I think that's the main thing that Portland has been running into. They want to have everything and not give up anything. They want to keep Simons. They want to keep Dame and CJ because it's the culture and it's what they built. They don't want to let Dame go because of what he means to the team and the community, the loyalness, and I get it. But at some point, it just ain't working, and you got to restart it and start over and let these guys really reach their fullest potential. And the sooner they commit to a direction, the better it'll be. Because if you're going to commit to Dame and CJ, trade Anthony Simons and let that young man develop into his fullest potential. And he will be a hot commodity right now on the trade market. So I'm very curious to what they're doing. Overall, I don't like the trade for Portland just because of, like I said, you go back to the Gary Trent situation. It's been an L and it's been a loss for them since the start of that. But boy, the Clippers really got better. I'm really hoping this goes into a domino effect. Like I said, I hope Portland isn't done. I would love to see CJ traded and find a new home. We talked about that in the video I did earlier today. Maybe the Mavericks. I would love a team like that. CJ came back and was playing incredible basketball since his injury. Y'all let me know if it's any trade that y'all have mocked up for the Trailblazers to do after this trade. Y'all let me know. If you are a Blazer or a Clipper fan, let me know your reactions in the comments. How do you feel about Norman Powell going to the Clippers? Do you think that's a smart investment for them? I think it may take them over the luxury tax. It may not allow them to be as flexible in the offseason to get that point guard. Am I overthinking it? Is Reggie Jackson and Paul George handling the guard responsibilities enough? Am I tripping with Portland? Is this the right move to do to shed Norman Powell's contract after mistakenly giving him that amount of money? Let me know in the comments. If you're new and you like this type of content, subscribe. We're going to be very active for every single player movement we have now leading up to the trade deadline. If you've always been here and you are familiar with me, smash that like button. Let's get those likes up, and I will see y'all next time here at NBA Weekly. It's your boy Pee Wee the Plug. I'm out. Peace.